Good evening, everybody. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a couple of AI stories that not a lot of people are agreeing upon right now. There seems to be some back and forth with ideas about these particular subjects. First, we're going to look at a video that I'm going to play that does a really good job of debunking the claim that AI is taking people's jobs. Now, people would obviously disagree with this, but we're going to break down why that may not necessarily be true right now. People keep repeating it, but the real job losses right now are coming from tariffs, high interest rates, and the normal ups and downs of the economy. Not necessarily automation, though automation is in its basic form being taken over by AI. But AI today isn't even capable of replacing most real jobs. They can only handle those simple, repetitive tasks. And even then, we still need humans to clean up after it does its job. Then the other story we're going to get into is Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, has proposed a new AI Bill of Rights. It's designed to protect people from AI misuse, things like deepfakes, fake therapy bots, and AI using your name or image without your permission. So whether you agree with the bill or not, it shows how confused people are about what AI can actually do today and its power. Some think it's wiping out jobs. Others think that it's about to end civilization. At this point, neither one is true. So tonight, we're going to cut through all the nonsense, look at what's actually happening, and talk about what people should really be paying attention to. So please make sure you like the stream, subscribe, and click the links in the description to grab our free AI tools that help you get into the AI game and learn it from its basic level. And of course, if you want to support the show, go to superchatme.com. That link is also in the description, and I'll be reading your comments throughout the stream. So let's go ahead and get started and move to the video that I'd like to play. And then we'll go through it. Doesn't seem to be playing. Bear with me here for a second. Try this again. Here we go.
To replace you, you might be feeling some. Is AI coming for your job or not? If you've been doom scrolling headlines to figure out whether an algorithm is about to replace you, you might be feeling some whiplash. AI is not killing jobs. The era of mega AI layoffs is here. The AI jobs apocalypse is not yet upon us. The AI apocalypse may already be here. Tech optimists like Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei and Bill Gates say an AI reckoning is coming.
Will we still need humans?
Not for most things. We'll decide.
Comforting. So what's actually happening? Let's start with the scary stuff. Companies are cutting jobs. Target, UPS, Microsoft, IBM, they've all slashed thousands of roles. Amazon eliminated 14,000 in October, citing AI efficiency gains. Even Jerome Powell, the man whose job is literally to stay calm, seems a little worried.
A significant number of companies either announcing that they are not going to be doing much hiring or actually doing layoffs. And much of the time they're talking about AI and what it can do.
But here's the twist. The data doesn't show AI is causing mass unemployment, at least not yet. Researchers have looked. The link mostly isn't there. Yes, certain workers are getting squeezed, junior coders, gig workers, anyone doing repetitive digital tasks. But in the overall labor market, things like trade wars and inflation have all led to a slowdown. The U.S. began tightening monetary policy around the time ChatGPT was released. But, and say it with me, correlation is not causation. More ice cream consumption does not mean an explosion in autonomous cars. It could be the other way around. No matter. Disruptive change is coming. AI adoption is happening faster than any technology in human history, faster than the internet, faster than electricity. That speed means turbulence. Historically, that's what happens with big technological leaps. Steam engines killed jobs. Industrial looms killed jobs. Cars killed jobs. But they created enough new jobs that overall employment grew. Except for horse and buggy drivers. Tough century for them. Will AI repeat that pattern? Maybe. It could turbocharge productivity, creating new industries, helping developing countries leapfrog ahead, or maybe not. If AI ends up concentrated in wealthy countries and wealthy companies with wealthy people, the gains would be wildly uneven. Because here's another issue. The World Bank estimates 1.2 billion people will enter the global workforce in the next decade, but only 420 million jobs will be created. I hope they're wrong. If not, that's a massive gap. And that growth will happen primarily in developing countries which don't have the electricity, the broadband, or the infrastructure to benefit fully from AI's potential. A billion young people, not enough jobs, plus the uncertainty of what AI will mean for the labor force and the very idea of work itself, all creating a real problem where the math just doesn't add up. As always, what happens next depends less on the tech and more on what governments and companies and all of us decide to do with it.
So that's the issue that we're dealing with now. And I was just watching a podcast called The Diary of a CEO. And Dr. Roman Yampolsky is an AI safety researcher with a PhD in computer science. His view is that he's basically a doomsdayer. He believes that AI essentially is going to take over almost all jobs, close to 99%. Now, if you see what this individual had to say, this guy is saying that, there could be, he doesn't really know, and I don't think any of us really know, but there's a possibility that it will create newer jobs, different jobs for people. And I tend to think that that's probably what's going to end up happening. But what the most important point he made in that video is that people seem to be saying, not all, but a lot are saying that AI currently is what's causing a lot of the issues in the labor market right now. And that's just not true. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not going to in the future as AI becomes better, more efficient, smarter, more powerful. And then when you add robots into the mix, who's to say that you're not going to have robot plumbers actually doing physical labor? And so when you get somebody like Roman Yampolsky say that virtually every single job that's out there can be replaced, it seems as if maybe what he's saying could potentially be true. But that remains to be seen. Now, there's an article here from Entrepreneur Magazine that I wanted to read. And this particular individual, Mohammed Fawaz, says how AI is driving jobs, not layoffs, and why we should not be scared. And so it goes and says automation, a term loaded with implications, predictions, and controversies, and has always been a constant topic of debate since the early 18th century. Back then, with the boom of the Industrial Revolution, newspapers and thinkers warned that machines would soon take over unskilled jobs. Although the outcome of automation has evidently turned out to be different, the notion of uncertainty, unfortunately, has not changed. Now, I think things may be a little bit different from the Industrial Revolution and how machines have changed and taken over unskilled jobs, as in the reasoning of what was just brought up earlier with robotics and things like that. So I'm hoping and I'm thinking that maybe it is just another industrial revolution that we're going to go through. But again, I can't help but not think that there's that possibility that because this is much more powerful in the way of technology with robotics as well as AI, that it could very well be different. But this guy goes on to say the same does apply to AI. The fear of AI taking over livelihoods is especially strong among both young people entering fields as well as experienced professionals who feel pressure to learn it in order to stay relevant. The biggest worry is that AI will take over all work and leave no jobs. This is exactly what the doctor was saying, is that that's what he fears. So you have these doomsdayers versus the optimists. And I think that it's really hard to say either way who is right at this point. However, according to the global economic forecasts, including those from McKinsey and Company, AI is expected to create at least 20 to 50 million new jobs worldwide by 2030. Meanwhile, PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, predicts that AI could add up to 15.7 trillion to the global economy by the next 5 years. The World Economic Forum, in its latest Future of Jobs report, whether you trust the WEF or not, ranked AI coupled with big data skills, cybersecurity know-how, and tech literacy as 3 of the most in-demand skills driving macro trends in labor market transformation. The problem with that is big data skills, cybersecurity, and all that type of stuff, depending on how AI ends up getting smarter, which it is day by day so quickly, is are you going to need cybersecurity? Once again, it's almost in a way that some of these people are thinking or hoping that their jobs are going to be saved in that particular industry where AI can very well take over that area or that industry. Metaphorically, Chris Hume once said, "The road is there, it will always be there. You just have to decide when to take it." The same can be applied for AI and its path. Ultimately, it is us entrepreneurs who have to choose whether to take it. And that's true for now, but then up to a certain extent, at what point does it ultimately take over, or does it? And I think that barring the dangers of AI and it killing humans and things like that, I don't think that's anything for us to discuss at this point. But I definitely am in the camp of AI helping those entrepreneurs and people who are trying to get ahead and use AI to help them supplement whatever it is that they're doing. And that's what, in my opinion, I think AI is doing, is supplementing people who need it. How AI is used to solve real problems today in the developing world. AI is already solving problems that humans alone cannot tackle productively. In businesses, for example, AI allows entrepreneurs to focus on more complex tasks by automating routine ones, sparing time for more high-value work, which is definitely helpful for things that I do, that repetitive tasks and things like that. So when it comes to certain things like video editing and other tasks like that are somewhat repetitive, writing scripts, things of that nature, that's certainly helpful in those repetitive tasks that do take a lot of time, copywriting, things of that nature. So that is a very true statement. In education, AI-powered tools are breaking down century-long language barriers by providing live translations, which is definitely helpful, amping real-time communication. Countries like Japan are now heavily investing in assistive technologies and AI-driven robots in an effort to provide adequate health care for their rapidly aging population. That's the other thing is, AI is, and I did this Thursday nights live, it's AI is involved in just about every single possible industry that you can come up with. And we talked about the medical industry, we talked about the legal profession, you name it. it's going to be involved in some way. Let's say major banks such as JP Morgan Chase have deployed machine learning programs to detect unusual transaction patterns in real time to minimize swindling, things that no human can possibly monitor at that scale. And I've heard these stories before. Banks are utilizing AI technology to see how people who are committing fraud, because they're always coming up with new ideas to do it. And so I spoke to somebody in the insurance industry related to AI, and they said that it is super helpful with these banks where the bank can stay one step ahead of the swindler or the crook because they're constantly coming up with new ideas in order to steal money. So AI can definitely help with that, where you just couldn't do it efficiently and effectively enough with just simply humans. In addition, AI now supports the global fight against climate change by optimizing renewable energy production using live sensory data to improve generation and efficiency. Well, we always have to throw in climate change. Meanwhile, you have massive AI farms, server farms, that when it comes to the climate, seemingly that's not that big of a deal. And I am going to do a story specifically on that, but I will be getting into that in the next story related to DeSantis's legislation. So according to PwC's fourth Global Investor Survey, 61% of investors believe that faster AI adoption is extremely important for business growth. Businesses grow through value creation. To see value, it is important to view things in a different way. Similarly, in entrepreneurship, the mindset of uncertainty and reluctance to pursue new things needs to be replaced with curiosity. And once again, a shameless plug, we have AI tools to help you learn how to prompt AI and use AI for just simply writing. If you want to write emails, if you want to write articles, if you want to do press releases, things like that, completely free, that you can download and take those prompts and put them in the chat GPT and learn how to use AI from a basic level like that. And so you start to kind of get into it a little bit, start using it a little bit more, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, this thing is the greatest thing ever. Our fears should be phased out with adaptability, and our confusions should be resolved through collaboration. Historically, automation has always caused fear among people. It's agreed. The introduction of mass-producing machines led thinkers to worry about job losses. But in reality, it only ended up creating new industries and new skills. And I'm hoping that that's where that goes in this sense. Similarly, AI too has a potential to open new avenues and new lines of work. And this is a very good statement, but what makes AI different is its pace. It is happening extremely rapidly, thanks to the improving digital connectivity and the growth of the Internet of Things. People are now welcoming AI into their day-to-day life as it makes it easier. Additionally, accessibility to AI tools are no longer only available for large labs or specific demographics. Open source models, APIs, and free cloud-based AI programs are pushing a strong culture of awareness worldwide. And that does not mean that entrepreneurs and employees should start worrying about having nothing to offer. The core aim of deploying AI into everyday life is to augment what humans can do. And this is something I've always been saying, and I said it earlier. I use AI to help me accomplish tasks that I normally would not have been able to do without much more time or effort. And in a lot of cases, do it more accurately. It is used to complement human input, not replace it. Totally agree with that. Moreover, human judgments in creativity emotional intelligence and collaboration will always be essential to fully capitalize on AI's transformative potential. They say that you need a mind to hunt a mind. This is why at Curve Up, which is the company that this guy has founded, we emphasize problem-solving skills as the foremost aptitude for entrepreneurs when adopting AI. And then finally, it goes on to say that McKinsey did some research, and they found out that nearly all companies now invest in AI. This is very important to point out. Only 1% believe themselves mature, meaning AI is credibly integrated into their workflows to bring measurable outcomes. So, in other words, what they're saying is that a lot of companies are using AI, but they really don't feel, or they don't think that it's making a massive change in what it is that they're doing. Now, that can mean a number of things. They're not using it properly. It's certainly not sophisticated enough to replace a lot of jobs. Again, people are making AI out to be something way bigger, way more powerful than it actually is at the current moment. It's not to say that it's going to get more powerful over time, because it will. But as of now, people are seeing all of this NVIDIA, and they're seeing Microsoft and all these huge companies spending billions, if not trillions of dollars in this AI race, this arms race. And they seem to think that somehow this AI is this behemoth that is completely taking over people's jobs. And this is why everybody's getting fired at all these tech jobs. And that's not the case necessarily. So, again, the economy, tariffs, there's just a fluctuation in the economy that happens on a normal basis. It has nothing to do with AI all of a sudden eliminating all these people's jobs. Now, there's some jobs I'm sure that are eliminated that are repetitive and boring and can be, somewhat easily taken over by AI, but not everybody. Not everybody right now is losing their job because of that. So let me know what you have to say about this. Do you think that AI is going to replace everybody's job eventually, like the doctor says? Do you think that the doomsdayers like Roman Yampolsky, that everybody's going to lose their job? Or do you think that it's going to bring new opportunities like the Industrial Revolution, like the cotton gin, like, the printing press? Do you think ultimately that it's going to give people new opportunities, in other words, as opposed to eliminate all jobs? Let me know what you have to say in the comments, and we will move on to the next story here. So the Ron DeSantis, he's rolled out what he's calling a Citizen Bill of Rights for Artificial Intelligence. It is a package of new rules that he says are needed to protect Floridians from the risks that come from rapid AI adoption. And like I said, AI has its tentacles into just about everything. And not only is it within industries, but also people who are using AI for therapy and for services. I see that some people are saying, well, do a job where you don't need a computer. The argument to that would be, well, if you are a nail technician, let's say, or if you're somebody who is a plumber, where you don't use a laptop for your job, that robots with artificial intelligence are going to have the dexterity to be able to do those jobs. And so the naysayers are saying every job is going to be replaced, regardless of whether or not you need a laptop or not. So that's the interesting thing, that no one really can answer that yet until time continues on and we see how this plays out. The proposal covers two big areas: how AI itself is allowed to operate. So this gets into the server farms and the infrastructure for the AI, the computers and the, like I said, the server farms and buildings and things, and how the massive data center infrastructure behind AI can be built and regulated inside the state. Now, you may or may not know that a lot of the lawmakers in Washington federally do not want to have laws passed. And so, main reason why, obviously, is because their donors who are involved in AI don't want those laws to stymie their production. They don't want them to stop the building of this infrastructure because they know that it's going to affect a lot of people's lives. And it is affecting a lot of farmers' lives. It's affecting a lot of people that have to live near these server farms. That the noise pollution is immense. And so those who are involved in AI don't want the laws, because if those laws are put in place, and that's going to affect them, it's going to affect their infrastructure. So on the infrastructure side, DeSantis wants local governments to have the power to block the construction of hyperscale AI data centers if they feel those facilities would overwhelm their utilities or harm their natural resources. Once again, this is the other thing. You know, we always talk about there's always climate change that's added into these articles that I read. But then at the same time, these data centers, well, they're not screwing with the environment. They're not causing problems at all. Where are the climate activists when it comes to that? He also wants to make sure taxpayers and utility ratepayers aren't subsidizing private AI companies to build these enormous power-hungry sites. That is also another thing, and ties back into global warming and climate. The amount of power that's involved in these AI data centers is absolutely immense, to the point where they actually are talking about having to build small nuclear reactors, which would probably be the most efficient power for these data centers. But nuclear power in and of itself is a problem, and I certainly don't like it. Fukushima is a good example of the latest meltdown that has destroyed an entire area in Japan that people can never go back to. On the AI policy side, he laid out several guardrails he believes are necessary. Companies would have to clearly tell people when they're interacting with AI instead of a human. I guess that's a good thing. AI systems would be forbidden from using someone's name, image, or likeness without explicit permission. I don't know how you're going to do that. Deepfakes would face new restrictions, especially when minors are involved. Not sure how you're going to regulate that. And AI would not be allowed to present itself as a licensed therapist or mental health professional. If a company offers AI support or counseling, it must be clearly labeled as AI, not a human expert. And there was someone who, and I'll get into this in the story, that was having these discussions with AI. It was a child or kid, and led to a very bad situation. Once again, these are the things that we're going to have to deal with, but it's also a responsibility of parenting and people using common sense, which I know there's not a lot of that anymore. But this, like I said, a lot of this stuff is going to be really hard to enforce. He also wants parents to have far more control over their children's interactions with AI chatbots. Under his proposal, parents could access the chat logs. You would think that they should be able to do that anyway. Set limits on what their kids can use, and receive alerts if the child is displaying concerning behavior, or if the system is engaging in inappropriate interactions. And again, we have all this stuff that's going on where, these kids are exhibiting dangerous, potentially dangerous behaviors and things, and nothing ends up happening. So I'm not sure how this is going to be any different. Another part of the proposal focuses on protecting personal data. DeSantis wants to stop AI companies from collecting, selling, or sharing personal information, even when companies claim it's anonymized. And when it comes to insurance, he wants to ban companies from using AI alone to approve, deny, or adjust claims. As an insurance guy, I can attest to that I think that's a good idea. However, when AI continues to get better and better and smarter, if the AI is programmed properly, because depending on the insurance company, who knows, but let's just assume it's on the up and up. I would prefer that someone who, or something, a computer system that's programmed to be fair, is going to make the adjustment claim, as opposed to the human who may be skewed or biased in a certain way. So again, these are the things where it's sort of in fantasy land if you're going to say, well, the insurance company, we have to have a human involved. Well, in a lot of these cases, the humans are going to be replaced by the AI because the humans aren't going to be able to do a good enough job of it. So for you to sit there and say the human has to do it, not AI, whether it be insurance adjusting or whether it be accounting, whether it be law, whatever it is, it's kind of a silly sort of way to go. Throughout his announcement, DeSantis framed these rules as necessary to protect kids, families, senior citizens, and consumers in general. He warned that without guardrails, AI could push society into what he called an age of darkness and deceit. I think, once again, that's determined on the humans that are using the AI. At the event, he invited a mother whose teenage son had interacted extensively with a chatbot before tragically taking his own life. She described how the AI had crossed boundaries. I'll address this in a second. Initiated inappropriate conversations and encouraged dangerous behavior. Her testimony was emotional and clearly intended to underscore the risks DeSantis believes are being ignored. Her presence put a human face on the argument that AI, if left unchecked, can influence vulnerable people in harmful ways. I've dealt enough with these chatbots and things like that you really have to sort of lead it along to have that happen. I don't know exactly what happened in this particular case, but I think there were a tremendous amount of failures here. Parents should be involved in paying attention to what their kids are doing. But in a lot of cases, how many of these kids have iPhones that they shouldn't have, and they're not paying attention to what their kids are doing? And then all of a sudden, when something tragic happens, everybody points the finger. Like I said, in this case, I can't say for sure, I don't know. But in a lot of cases, there are people that just refuse to take responsibility, and then they blame it. So case in point, when people are saying, well, all of our jobs are going to get taken away. Well, who's saying that? Is somebody saying that on the internet or on these television shows, when in reality, if you do slightly more research and a little bit more reading, or use AI to pull more information, more research, and then double check that research and double check those articles, that you would look at it and say, AI is not taking jobs. This is because technology companies or the economy as a whole is dealing with financial issues when it comes to fluctuating markets and tariffs, trade wars, just the overall contracting of the market as a whole. But to blame it on AI, this is essentially the same thing. And so we have to be very careful to go, say in absolutes that AI is caused this, or this is the problem, or any of that kind of stuff. We have to be very careful with this. But once again, most humans are going to just have a knee-jerk reaction based on something that they heard someone else say without taking the time and the effort to look it up at all. In explaining why these regulations are necessary, DeSantis outlined several concerns: protecting children from manipulation and explicit content, protecting adults from impersonation, identity theft. This is my worries, the people using you can create a spitting image of yourself now as an AI avatar, and the voice is easy to do as well. That's going to be the problem for people who are older and don't understand the technology as much. I can see this happening quite a bit. That's a worry for me. But again, these are people, humans, that are using AI to take advantage of other people. He also pushed back against any federal effort to impose a single nationwide standard that would prevent states from setting their own rules. He argued that states should have the authority to act directly on behalf of their residents when new technology presents risks that Washington is slow to address. So, once again, this is people blaming AI for their own poor decisions. I do agree with the Florida law as opposed to having to follow federal law, because what I had said earlier, there are a lot of these AI companies that are trying to do as much as they possibly can to limit laws on the federal side so they can continue to build this infrastructure without any real regulation or any way to kind of hold them back. And that's a scary thing. So let me know what you think about that. Do you think that it's a good idea that states have their own laws? Do you think that we have to have a ton of laws regarding AI, or do you think that it should be the Wild West and these things should be kind of on their own and we sort of kind of let it go? And in this case where kids are involved, do you think that the parents should be more involved, or do you think laws should be put in place for the lack of parenting? So let me know what you have to say about that in the comment section. So there you have it. That is tonight's live stream for Saturday night. Thank you for joining me. And we are going to be back on Monday again at 9:30 p.m. with new stories. And if you have any topics or anything that are interesting to you, let me know in the comments section. And once again, we have these free AI downloads. Go to DennisHendrickson.net. The link is in the description. If you go to that website, you'll be able to download PDF documents that can help you learn AI, use AI prompts, and like I said, all kinds of writing, whether it be emails, whether it be scripts, whatever it is, school papers, whatever you want to do. And it humanizes the AI to make it sound as if you had written it, which is what you want to do in the first place. You don't want to tell AI to write something for you. You want to create your own work. And then once again, what I've always said is let AI enhance it for you. How it's like somebody helping you make it a better work that you created originally. And that's where I think we have a lot of issues with now, is that people are lazy. They just want the AI to do it for them. And a lot of these stories that I read is that you can tell it's AI. A lot of journalists are just using AI to write their stories. And it's a shame because it's easy to tell these days now, and that's why journalism overall is that's another industry that's going to die because AI is going to take over, and these journalists are not using it in the right way, and they're gonna end up losing their jobs as a result of it. And if you enjoyed the content, please be sure to subscribe and also click the like button and hit those notification bells so you are notified when we go live again. But once again, thank you for coming out on a Saturday night and watching us, and we'll see you on Monday. Have a great rest of your weekend.